My name is James Isiche. I'm the Regional Director, International Fund for Animal Welfare. I'm responsible for conservation projects and animal welfare issues in the East Africa region. Part of the job that we do here in a park like this is to ensure that this habitat is protected into perpetuity and the elephants are free from poaching. People see the glamour of the job, but it's a very hard job. You spend a lot of time out there in the field. You can't stay in some of these areas with your family because there are no social amenities. Here you are in a very remote area, charged with the responsibility of protecting the wildlife. You put your life on the line. And the people who come to poach elephants come with sophisticated weapons. They would shoot you. So you have to be alert all the time. The likelihood of losing your life is very high. The elephant, which you're charged with the responsibility of protecting, can also lose its life. So you are actually at a front line. It's a battle. It can be very tense. If you take it like it's a calling, it's very rewarding. Kenya is by and large a conservation country. We are endowed with this beautiful natural heritage called wildlife. Kenya is not rich with minerals, hydrocarbons, etc., but we have wildlife. And wildlife is a key driver of our tourism industry. Kenya as a country does safeguard its wildlife jealously. Everything that we are doing is geared towards ensuring that the ecosystem remains as intact as possible. Without the ecosystem, then IFAW has no business being here because everything else is going to collapse. The key one here is to ensure that we protect elephant habitats. All of them are under threat. The first thing is to bring security, of course, and then to bring awareness amongst communities that we need to conserve these for perpetuity. The community is a very important component of conservation because not all wildlife resides in protected areas. Particularly here in Kenya and certainly in Tanzania, the protected areas do not have fences. The community are custodians of this wildlife. And what IFAW wants to do in Amboseli is to work with the community. Over 90% of the Amboseli ecosystem is actually outside in the community land. So for the park, Amboseli National Park, to survive, we need the outside areas. So we want to get into partnerships where we can, one, look at how best the community can benefit in terms of getting engaged in conservation and earning a livelihood out of it. Two, address this issue of conflict, because conflicts do arise, and how best can we solve them so that it's a win-win situation. And then there's a whole issue of elephant protection. There are those bad guys who are out there and they want to come and kill elephants and feed the ivory market in Asia. We are equipping law enforcement agencies like Kenya Wildlife Service with equipment that enables them to combat these poachers. Vehicles, radios, cameras, GPS, the nuts and bolts that they require to put their lives on the line to protect elephants. And then there's a whole issue of trade. There are these networks that come in and they're trying to move wildlife products either within the country or across borders. So we're working with wildlife agencies, other stakeholders to ensure that this illegal trade is minimized. We also undertake trainings to bring law enforcement officers up to speed about what's happening in the world of illegal wildlife trade. What are the new tricks that people are using, for instance, to smuggle wildlife products like ivory? It's a pretty new thing to talk about animal welfare in the developing world, and particularly here in East Africa, that people do not understand what animal welfare is. It's about giving an animal quality in terms of the life that it leads, and it's getting there. So we need to continue with that message to all stakeholders, including government, so that they understand the issue of animal welfare. We are always talking about how best to reach out to those leaders of today and those of tomorrow. The limiting factor is funding. IFAW is going to commit some funding, but we need all the help that we can get from our supporters. Amboseli has an elephant population that has been studied since the 1970s. It is the most studied elephant population in the world. We do not want to lose that population. From a policy level, we need as much support as possible so that the policies that are undertaken by government at the national level or at the local level, or indeed policies that are undertaken internationally in forums like CITES, that they are elephant friendly, that they are friendly towards the conservation of wildlife. So we need again our supporters to help us to ask their governments to play a part. What can they do to ensure that this heritage, which just doesn't belong to Kenya but also belongs to the world, what can we all do collectively to ensure that these animals are passed on to our grandchildren and their grandchildren and forever? This is heaven. This is heaven. You never get enough of being in places like Amboseli. You can never get enough. The scenery, the wildlife, this is just bliss. We don't want people to learn from books and from films that they used to be in Amboseli, that this is how it looked like, simply because we acted irresponsibly at some point in time. We have a responsibility to bequeath this wealth to the next generation. And I think that with IFAW and the supporters backing us, we are up to the task.